Hello and welcome back to the Stationary Dev. Today we have another ink review. This is sort of one of the goodies I've gotten as I've gotten back sort of following the fountain pen hobby. I never stopped using fountain pens or anything, but I kind of fall into these seasons of kind of following things and being really into it and watching everything and seeing what everybody's using and getting, and then seasons of just using what I got and not really worrying about all the extra stuff. And so I've kind of gotten back into following the things. And so since I've been following, I come back and I see that Platinum, who I'm a little bit of a Platinum fanboy, but Platinum has released a new, I guess, premium ink. And on top of that, it's a black ink. I love black inks. I think everybody needs a good black ink in your collection, even if you don't think you like writing in black. In this world of tons and tons of colors and shimmering and shading and sheening and color changing and dual shading and all this crazy, pastel and highlighter looking colors and everything, it's so refreshing to just come back to a black ink. And anytime I do ink up a black ink in one of my pens, like I said, it's just kind of refreshing, kind of a good reset just to see a dark black, wet juicy line coming down, and it's just like, I don't know, for me it's kind of a good reset, a good sort of zen moment to see that black ink go down. And so they come out with the black ink, and on top of that it's a premium ink, and it's supposed to be like the blackest of black ink. So I kind of had to check it out, but when I went to check it out, I kind of had sticker shock, right? You don't expect an ink from Platinum or anybody really to hit a $60 price tag, but that's kind of what it was going for. Most places was about $60 for a 60 milliliter bottle of ink, which is pretty standard size bottle of ink. So something must be special, something must be interesting about it. It is, from what I understand, a carbon ink, so it does have some water resistance, not waterproofness, so some water resistance and stuff like that. They recommend that you clean it out a little bit more regularly. You don't leave it sitting in a pen for, half a year or something crazy. So if you, whatever you ink it in, make sure you're using it or you clean it out regularly. So I did end up finding it for a good price. The best price I could find it for was actually on Goldspot, but on their website it said they were sold out. So the next place that I found it for around that same price point was Amazon. So I ended up ordering it from Amazon. It was about $46, $47 on Amazon, which is way better than the $60 sort of retail MSRP on it. But when it came in a Goldspot box with the Goldspot invoice and the sticker and everything. So I'm assuming what they do is they mark out some of their stock for their Amazon store, and then they have some of their stock marked out for their, actual in-house store. So this came out of their Amazon store and came straight from Goldspot. So I was still able to kind of support an actual pen retailer, even though it was purchased through Amazon. So that's kind of neat and something I didn't notice when I bought it. But I did try to buy it, I did try to look at them first. So it does come in this, it has a sleeve for some reason. I guess because of the way the box is. It comes in this really premium looking box. You have the Platinum Chou Kuro, or Chou Kuro, 60 milliliters, Platinum, Japan, 1919, 60 milliliter, and that's about all it has on the box. But it is this cool kind of angled jewelry looking box. It is a full 2 pieces. When we take that off, we do get a little informational thing about this ink, which makes it feel very premium. It tells you in Japanese, of course, that it's a little bit darker than its carbon ink. It does have, we'll see, it has a little insert for filling your pen, like a little ink well inside the bottle, similar to like what Sailor used to do, and I think Platinum's regular inks also kind of have that too. I usually take it out and don't use it much, but I've left it in so far. And it just kind of reminds you to maybe clean it a little bit more. Maybe use purified water or distilled water when you clean it, just to be extra careful. You know, especially at first, maybe do a test run with it and whatever. If you want to be super careful, like the manufacturer recommends, but I don't always follow what the manufacturer recommends, or else I couldn't use any ink but Sailor ink and a Sailor pen, and I don't do that. To each their own, though. It is a padded bottom, which is kind of cool. Nothing on the top, but it does get a very premium feel. And then we get our standard Platinum bottle. I think this is what their inks usually come in. Their 60 milliliter bottle, but it does have the black on black kind of label for Chou Kuro and Platinum. So it is sort of their standard bottle. I'm just going to give it a quick shake, just because it probably does have some sort of particles in it. And we're going to give this a test. I'm going to do a couple swatches, and then we'll ink it up in a pen and see how it writes there. So first swatch I'm going to do is just on some Rhodia paper here. Then I'll do it on some Tomoe River paper, and we may do more if I'm feeling up to it and the video doesn't go too long. So it's supposed to be a super ultra black, you know, jet black ink. You can see the inkwell there. Basically what you do is before you ink your pen, obviously with the cap on, you turn it upside down. It fills up that little inkwell, and then you flip it over, and it sort of concentrates the ink in that inkwell to make it easy to fill your pens from. Which kind of works, but for bigger nibbed pens, I find it doesn't work, and it works a lot better if it's not in there. Alright, and just from feeling it and swabbing it out, it does feel very lubricated, kind of thicker, definitely thicker than something like that Pelikan Edelstein felt. Let's see. I'll go ahead, and while I have my cotton swab, do the Tomoe River paper swab as well. If I can find my black sheet, and see if I can fit all of this into the video space we're going for. I'll do a new side, because why not? Probably a bad move, because now I got it all over my fingers. And I do these kind of longer swabs just so I can see. I don't expect it in this ink, but if there is any shading or anything like that to be had, I'll hopefully see it in a longer swab just to kind of get the full range of color of it. I don't want that going on my desk mat, which it kind of already did, so that might be a problem. Apparently, though, people have said it isn't completely waterproof. It is water resistant, just like their carbon ink. So, I mean, your mileage may vary. I don't usually test waterproofness because I don't need waterproofness or use waterproofness. I don't do watercolor or anything like that. So I don't know. I'm not the best resource for that, but you can definitely Google it and see other people's experience with this ink as well. So there's our swabs. I've decided this is kind of a working ink. It's supposed to be good on regular papers, so, you know, fountain pen paper, of course, but also just like cheap copy paper and notebook paper and whatever. It's supposed to be really good with any kind of paper, similar to like their carbon black was as well. So I decided to put it in my workhorse pen. You can see I'm already marked up, and depending on how permanent it is, that might be for a while. But I'll put it in my Pilot Vanishing Point, sort of my workhorse everyday pen. This thing's been through a ton with me. You can see it's definitely well used. But I figured it'd be a good pen to test this sort of ink in, and I always fill the vanishing points with the syringe. I find it's easier than trying to mess with the here, I'll do the little upside down trick. I find it's a lot easier to mess than messing with the Con 40 and trying to get it a full fill, especially with the elongated pilot nibs and stuff. It's just so much easier to get a little bit in a syringe and completely fill the Con 40. So I'm going to try to do that on camera without making a catastrophic mess. And you leave a little bit of room for the converter to meet. There. Oh man. I am making a huge mess with this ink. So that's one thing with like the semi-permanent inks. Just be careful if you can. And you don't have a whole camera apparatus and lighting apparatus in front of you. And then with this, to just kind of try to prime the feed, I do very carefully work this down until I see ink coming out, or starting to come out. There you're starting to get a little bit. All right, then we'll suck the rest back up and hopefully that starts writing for us soon. Go. Put this back together and see if we can get a writing sample with it. Oh. It'd help if I wrote with the pen the right way. And there we go. Started writing right away. Put the cap on before we have any other incidents. And we have the Platinum Chou Kuro. Now to be warned, I did just kind of clean my vanishing point, so if it comes out a little watery or anything, that's probably the pen and not the actual ink. We'll get a little bit better as we go here. Give it just a little bit of a writing test there on the Rhodia. We'll come back to that. It's still drying, so on the Rhodia, it's already dried pretty much completely. We see a little bit of sheen actually coming through there, which is interesting. On the Tomoe River though, it is still drying, so I gotta be super careful. Try not to mess this up. So there we have on there. You can still see, on the parts where it has dried, you can see a little bit of sheen, a little bit of black sheen on the black ink, but it is so far very black. Yeah, on the Rhodia, you can see that sheen a little bit in the light. Even over here in the lighter portions, you can see it going down. I think that's a little bit, maybe that's just my pen getting used to the ink being in it. It is a very black ink. Now, that being said, I don't have the other sort of blackest inks to compare it with. Things like Aurora Black, Noodler's Heart of Darkness. I don't even have like the regular Carbon Black. I've kind of been meaning to get it, but just never got around to it. What I do have though is some Sailor Black is one of my favorite blacks. Pelican 4001 Black, which is a lighter sort of black, so I don't think it'll be much of a competition, but let me grab some blacks and see if we can compare it just a little bit. All right, and we're back. So I did grab just really quickly because I'm not prepared. I grabbed my Sailor Black. This is the old style bottles, but it's the same thing that you get if you just get regular Sailor black ink, but it's a really good black ink. If you just want a regular, off-the-shelf, really good black ink, the Sailor regular black is phenomenal. And then also another one that I like is Pelikan 4001 Brilliant Black. I've used this a lot. I didn't originally order this ink. I got it as kind of an oopsie from in like a shipping mess up or whatever. But they let me keep the ink and sent me the right one. And I didn't think I would use it very much, but I've actually come around to it a lot. So I do like the Pelikan ink as well. I find it to be sufficiently black. Some people complain that it's not black enough or it comes off grayish. But I find it completely fine. So we'll give it a quick swab just to see. On the left here, we'll do Pelikan Black 4001. They do have an Edelstein that's Edelstein Onyx that's black as well. That I think is a little bit more black. And then probably my all-time favorite black up to this point, the old Sailor Gentle Black. Or regular Sailor Black. But these are the old bottles that they don't make anymore, sadly. I really enjoy this Sailor Black. Once again, if you don't have a good black, get one. You need a black. Alright, we'll see how those two fare. And I did manage to get more ink on my hand now. Some all kinds of colors today. Alright. Now I have too many things on my desk. We can see the Sailor Black actually dries really, really quick. It's supposed to be a wetter ink, but it dries really quick. And the Pelikan 4001, which has been my experience to be supposed to be a drier ink, which I've experienced to be perfectly fine, does take a good amount of time to dry, even on Rhodia paper. But we can already see here, maybe the camera picks it up, maybe it doesn't. The Sailor Black I find to have just a little bit of maybe like a bluish tone to it, and especially compared to the Chou Kuro ink up here. This is definitely a blacker black, even compared to the Sailor Black, which is already a pretty black ink. The Pelikan, which maybe has a greenish gray kind of undertone to it. Here in these lighter sections, we still have to wait for it to dry to really tell on the thicker parts. But over here, you can kind of get a feel for it. It's kind of got this greenish, grayish undertone to it. And the Chou Kuro is definitely, once again, blacker. I'd say a more true black and a more just blacker black. And it has that sheen on there, which makes it really, gives it kind of like a velvety texture and look to it, which I really like. All right, one last test, and then we'll wrap this thing up. I'll let this Rhodia paper dry, and we'll look at the back of it just to get a sense of any bleed through or show through or anything like that. This is an Exceed journal. It's sort of what I keep just random scribblings in. I sometimes keep outlines for these videos in, but I also kind of keep a sort of ink journal of the inks that have inked up or have used or whatever. So I have a Leonardo black in there that we might be able to compare it to. And I'll just do a quick one on this paper. This is more cream paper, so it might be a better test on, of color and blackness maybe on cream paper. Now my Pilot is a fine nib, so we do have to take that into consideration. It might not get the blackest. I got a little bit of paper fiber in there, but it got it out. This is my Pilot finishing point. I believe these are 18 karat nibs, if I remember. And ink is Platinum Chou Kuro. All right. All right, so just looking at this sample here, very black. If we compare it, I don't have the best lighting to, but just looking at it compared to this Leonardo black and the same pen, the same exact pen, I can definitely tell you that the Chou Kuro is blacker, noticeably blacker. The Leonardo black kind of has a reddish undertone to it. Maybe you can or can't tell in the lighting. I think that lighting is maybe a little bit better there, but you can tell the deepness of the Chou Kuro. And then similarly, and this is in a platinum fine, but this Monteverde Black Ash, or Ash Black, which I also like as a black ink, it is a little bit more gray. It is more ashy kind of black than a true black. So it is blacker than that even as well. In writing, I can tell you that it does feel smooth. It feels good to write on. I haven't had any skips. Even this kind of nib that can be a little bit skippy, or depending on the angle or how you're holding the vanishing point, because the angle can get wonky on holding vanishing points. Yeah, it's been super smooth. And yeah, just a really deep line. Bleed through, nothing on the Exceed paper, but it's 120 GSM. It's not going to bleed for pretty much anything. Our Tomoe River, which is just finishing up its drying. Absolutely nothing. And our Rhodia, Pelican still drying down there. You can kind of see the good difference between like a kind of bluer, purpler leaning black and then like a grayer, greener leaning black there. But it's blacker than both of those, and no bleed through. Even with the fine nib, even with the swatch, it bled through, interestingly enough, with the other two black inks, but the blackest black ink is completely fine. So that leads me to believe that it holds its claim for cheap paper. And I'll try to follow up maybe in my currently inked pens or something, and how it does with some of the really cheap paper, like copy paper or notebook paper or whatever. But from this, just seeing it's done better on Rhodia paper than Pelican Golden Lapis, than Sailor, or Pelican 4001, at least in terms of the swab. And I didn't go light on the swab. I went pretty darn heavy, and we got that sheen and everything that looks really cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up there because it's getting a little bit long. I think if you like black inks, maybe if you need a velvety, if you're really super into finding the blackest black ink, once again, I haven't compared it to Aurora Black or Heart of Darkness or anything like that. Maybe that'll be a future video. I think it might be worth it for you. If you just need maybe if you just want one black ink in your collection, and that's the only black you ever have, maybe it can justify the price for this one. Maybe if you just need a everyday functional black ink, maybe this one might not justify the cost. Maybe the regular carbon black might be better, or something like the 4001 or something that is a good performer but also value ink. The Sailor, I think, is one of my all-time favorite black inks. A lot more cost effective. So this one is if you really love black inks, or if you just want one black ink to rule them all, or to be your only black ink. Maybe you can justify the price for it. Maybe if you're an artist and you really need that super dark ink. Once again, I'm not an artist. I'm not a watercolor person or anything like that. But this might be good for those kind of purposes. For me, in writing, I'm going to be super stoked to write out, a page in this super deep, dark, black ink. Like it just doesn't have any shading really. It's just a black, deep black line with a little bit of sheen, I'm sure, if you use it in a thicker nib. Dries really fast, or pretty fast. Doesn't bleed through on any paper that I've tried to do on yet. Supposed to be good for cheaper paper, so if you need a good office ink or something like that for signing documents, it has a little bit of water resistance for sure, then this one might be a good option for you as well. So I'm going to stop the video there. Appreciate you making it this far. If you have, this one ran a little bit long just because we were exploring all kinds of inks and stuff, and a special ink at that. And I'm really glad I purchased this. I love black ink though. I use them. I think they're necessary in a collection. And so I'm also a little bit of a Platinum fanboy, so this was a no-brainer for me. And I think I'm going to love it. It's a velvety, deep, you know, black hole kind of dark matter looking ink. So for me, it's worth it. Until next time, if you don't mind hitting the subscribe or the like button, it's free. It doesn't hurt you at all. It doesn't cost you anything to do those things, but really helps me out and motivates me to continue making these videos. Then please hit one of those or both of those buttons. And until next time, fair winds, and I'll catch you all later.